Welcome to Maine, a state known for its picturesque beauty and amazing landscapes, but beneath the surface lies a darker reality. Well, on the outside, Maine may seem like the way life should be. It's not all lobsters and lighthouses here. So today, we're gonna take a dive into the dark side of living in Maine. But before I do, just let me quickly introduce myself. My name's Cam Avery, and I'm a local resident and real estate agent with the Avery Realty Group. This channel is all about living in Southern Maine, and so if that's something that you're interested in, then definitely hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for doing so. So today we are out in Vaughan Woods. We're on our way on a hike to the Hamilton House. It is an absolutely gorgeous summer day, and so let's take a hike with us and let's talk about the dark side of living in Maine. You know, a lot of people think that as a realtor, I'm only gonna show you the best parts of a location or a house because I want you to move here and I want you to buy a house with me. But I really feel like it's my goal to show you not just the best parts of a town or a location or a state, but also the worst parts so that if you're seriously planning on moving here, you know exactly what to expect. And if that's the kind of honesty that you appreciate, do me a favor and smash that like button, and thank you so much for doing so. You know, I never want you to move here and think, Cam, you told me this place was perfect. It turns out that every place has a dark side, even Maine, which is probably why Stephen King decided to make Maine his home and write his absolutely terrifying novels during the long, cold, and dark days of winter. And that brings us to our first point, which is the long, cold, and dark winters here in Maine. Now today we're out in the woods here in Vaughan Woods in South Berwick. It's an absolutely beautiful summer day, but the winters here can get really dark, really lonely, and really depressing. It's why the state struggles with depression, alcoholism, and drug addiction. During the winter months, it's super easy to feel isolated and alone. And I know that Maine by no means is the only state that struggles with this, but I really want you to know that moving to Maine is not going to solve all of your problems or the problems of a loved one. And so if you're someone that struggles with depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, I promise you it does exist here in Maine, and the winter months can actually make it even worse. And so it's something that you really need to know if you plan on moving here, that the winters are rough. We get a lot of snow, and there's just not a whole lot to do unless you're a winter sports enthusiast, in which case you'll be right at home. So speaking about isolation, in my experience in speaking with, at this point, hundreds of people moving here from all over the country, most people have really no idea how remote Maine is. Picture this. You have a loved one who's having a stroke. They're literally seconds away. They need medical attention, and the nearest hospital is over an hour away. Guys, it's not uncommon for a lot of these towns in remote Maine. You know, I get calls all the time from people that are romanticizing about this idea of living off the grid and isolated, but they really have no idea of the implications of what that could look like for their actual lives, both in a safety perspective, in a quality of life perspective. You know, it's an hour and a half just to get groceries for some of these towns in Maine. And so most people that I speak with live in such densely populated areas that even a town in Maine, I mean, the biggest city only has 66,000 residents, right? And so it's really, really important that when you're thinking about moving to Maine, that you do your research, not just on YouTube, not just watching our videos, but come here, drive through the state. What I've found is that generally the more rural the area, the lower the quality of life, the less job opportunities, and potentially the farther away you are from healthcare options. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Make sure you drive through the areas that you plan to live in the state of Maine. Hey, I wanted to let you know that we actually created a complete relocation guide for moving to Maine. So if you're thinking about moving here, definitely download the guide. You can download it totally for free just by clicking the link right in the description below. So now let's talk about probably one of the more terrifying parts of living in Maine, and that is the very real possibility of contracting Lyme disease. So the deer tick in Maine is honestly probably no bigger than this, which you probably can't even see on the camera, but they carry with them what's called Lyme disease. And the symptoms for Lyme disease when you first get it can include fever, headache, nausea, but the real danger is if it's untreated. you can really develop some significant health issues. And so this is a real threat. Now, it's great that Maine doesn't have poisonous snakes or, alligators, but when you have these little bugs that are just barely you can see that have a pretty significant disease, that's definitely something that you need to know of. So make sure when you go out in the woods, make sure that you have bug spray. Make sure that you check your legs, especially when you walk through grass like this, just to make sure that you don't have any ticks on you. You take them off, you throw them away, and it's done. Okay, it's not bad unless they bite you, and then you just want to make sure that you get the tick out. I don't know how you feel about pesticides, but we do have our yard sprayed for mosquitoes and ticks. It just takes care of everything for our family and for our kids. It's been a life-changing thing. And so it's definitely something that you guys need to be aware of when it comes to living in Maine. Some other animals that live in Maine are the American black bear, the fisher cat, which are particularly nasty, and then of course you have the mosquitoes, moose, and the white-tailed deer. So while we can't confirm or deny that Maine is home to the terrors found in all of Stephen King's novels, one thing is for sure, and that is that the rugged Maine wilderness is not a place for the faint of heart. If you're seriously considering moving here, I hope this video helped to open your eyes to the reality of some of the dark side of living in Maine. And make sure to watch this video here where we talk about why everyone is moving to Maine.